It all began in an alien colony in space. The alien queen was furious as a caged alien was brought forward. The caged alien, Stich, was a result of an illegal genetic experimentation as he teased the crowd from the stage. Because of this, the scientist responsible for creating him was arrested. Stich was extremely powerful as all their attempts to eliminate him were futile. The aliens didn't know what to do, so they restrained him and were about blasting him one last time, but he was able to deceive the operator and explode the facility. Stich escaped the colony with an aircraft and was chased, but he was extremely fast and made his way to the planet Earth. The leader was furious as Stich was extremely powerful and could cause havoc there. A scientist came running claiming to know all about primates on Earth, so he was given a mission to go to Earth alongside the arrested scientist and retrieve Stich without the humans knowing. On Earth, an orphan, Lilo, hurried as she was about to miss her dance recital. Meanwhile, her sister, Nani, also rushed to the event. Lilo was able to get there on time, and as the children prepared for the dance, she was mocked by other girls saying she has no friends. The dance was about to begin, but her sister hadn't arrived yet because her vehicle refused to start. During the dance, Lilo looks at the crowd and sees her sister's seat empty. One of the girls uses her body, slightly pushing Lilo to the ground. Lilo was enraged and retaliated, but it was an awful sight as the girl fell off the stage. Lilo was sent out as it was the end of the recital, and by the time her sister arrived it was over. Nani got home to comfort her sis, but Lilo locked the door and wouldn't let her in. She tried begging Lilo to let her in as the social worker who was coming to see them was close by, but Lilo played loud music and pretended not to hear. Just as her sis was about to break in with a brick, the social worker arrived. Her sis, nervous, took her to the back door, but it was slightly locked, but she was able to break in. Nani invited the social worker to the house, which was unkept. The social worker asked for a coffee, and as she didn't have any, she fixed some out of a Capri Sun and served it to her. The social worker asks Lilo how she has been faring as her sister signals her from the back, and Lilo was able to respond well. The social worker nevertheless noticed so many irregularities and gave Nani 3 goals to achieve before Friday. To clean the house, fix the shelves, and put them on health insurance, or Lilo will be taken to a foster home. They waved the social worker goodbye as Nani playfully chased her around because of her actions earlier. Meanwhile, in Earth's atmosphere, Stich happened to still be in the craft as it continues beeping due to an error signal. This infuriated Stich and he accidentally destroyed the spaceship and it was about to crash. At night, Lilo was comforted by Nani who was sad about not having any friends, but she cheered her up and while they lay together, Lilo spotted Stich crashing airship and mistook it for a shooting star, so she quickly pushed her sis out of the room and began saying her wish. Her sister peeps as Lilo wishes for a true friend. Stich got out of the spaceship as he was now on Earth. A device was embedded in his neck by the scientist, and he was electrocuted anytime the device was triggered. The scientists were tracking him with the device and were closing in on him. Stich, wanting to get rid of the device, made his way to a transformer and used the electricity in it to destroy the device in his neck, so he was now free and the alien scientists couldn't trace him anymore. A wedding event was happening nearby as Stich was hungry, and as he spotted a cake in the wedding, he rushed towards it. Stich caused havoc in the wedding as every effort made to capture him was futile. The people had never seen such a species, and it terrified them. Nevertheless, Stich made his way out with some pieces of cake, but got hit by a bus on the way and was knocked out. Animal control was called on him, and he was taken away. Meanwhile, the alien scientists, trying to find Stich, disguised themselves as they bumped into some humans, and as they touched them, they were able to shape-shift to look like the humans they touched, but they had a hard time adjusting to the human patterns of walking as they fell off several times. They were able to make a reservation at a hotel as they packed into their new room, and while they were in the elevator, they watched the news and saw that Stich was taken to an animal shelter. Meanwhile, Lilo was able to convince her nanny to let her visit the animal shelter, but before she left, her nanny handed her a pepper spray for protection. Meanwhile, Stich woke up at the shelter as the dogs began barking profusely at him as he broke out of the cage. He got outside as the alien scientists located him and began firing at him, so he took cover in a truck and overheard the scientists discussing how they need to be careful in order not to hurt humans. So, Stich decided to go back to the shelter and watched as Lilo got in and began petting the dogs there. Stich wanted to use Lilo to protect himself, so he changed his appearance to look more like a dog and met with her. Lilo screamed on seeing him, but soon found out he wouldn't hurt her and hugged him. The caretaker quickly took Stich as he was a new species and could be harmful, but Lilo pleaded with her nanny to let them keep him, so they adopted him and drove him home as the scientists watched them. One of the alien scientists accidentally fired the tranquilizer at his partner, making him unconscious, so he had to drag his partner while chasing Stich. Nanny was mad at the nanny for adopting Stich, but she was late for her shift and had to leave. Meanwhile, the CIA spotted the strange spaceship and realized it must be extraterrestrial, as they were shown an image of Stich that was taken at the shelter earlier and felt they might be connected. Meanwhile, Lilo was with Stich and was about getting picked on by some girls again when Stich spotted a toy car and took possession of it as Lilo joined him and they drove off. Stitch planned to leave the city, but it was an island and he soon realized he was stuck. Lilo had a great time with Stitch as they spent some time at the beach. He was her only friend. Nani drives them as Stitch appears to be restless. The alien scientist caught up to them as he stopped their vehicle with his partner still unconscious. After her sis apologized, the alien let them pass as Stitch taunts him, but he quickly threw a tracker at the vehicle so he could trace them. Nani drove them to her workplace when she tried to get them to be settled, but Stitch was restless, so she had to confine Stitch to a chair, but it wouldn't hold. Nani's boyfriend spoke with Lilo to find out why her sis had been tensed lately. While they were still speaking, Lilo noticed Stitch was gone and looked for him and found him. Stitch sprayed her, and they began playing together, but Stitch was destructive, and as night fell, Stitch noticed the dancers performing with fire and obtained one of his own, but he was careless as the fire spreads and caused havoc in the place, causing problems for Nani. She was fired as they both waited at the car as Nani got in and seemed to be depressed. The aliens traced the car to the workplace, but the car was already gone. They got a call from their queen who wanted to find out if their mission was successful, but they informed her they were still on it. At home, Lilo's sis called animal control describing Stitch. Stitch, on the other hand, was still restless as he wrecked the house apart, and all efforts from Nani to catch him failed, so she informed Lilo that Stitch would be going back to the shelter the next day. One of the CIA agents happened to be outside their home at the moment and called for the social worker. Lilo was finally able to get Stitch to be calm and read him a story, and also taught him how to dance. In the morning, Lilo tried presenting what she taught Stitch to her sis, but she was thinking about getting a new job and wasn't listening. On getting out, they met with the social worker who introduced her partner as the director, but he wasn't. The social worker spoke with Nani while the agent, wanting to get samples, retrieved his hair with a tweezer, which triggered Stitch. They all left to go look for a job as the aliens kept following them. They arrived at the first venue as Nani told them to be on their best behavior as she left. Lilo, not wanting to spoil this for her sis, taught Lilo how to behave, but no matter how hard he tried, he still messed things up for them as Nani got rejected from all the places she applied for a job. Stitch, on realizing it was his fault, handed a flyer to Lilo which she gave to her sis, and as she read it, it turns out it was her dream job as she quickly rushed to the beach to apply for a job as a surf instructor. She got the job and quickly started teaching people how to surf alongside her boyfriend. Stitch spotted a dog surfing and wanted to surf also as he brought a surfboard to Lilo, so they began surfing alongside their sis. But disaster struck as the aliens chasing them began firing as they all plummeted into the water and Lilo sank. Lilo's sis rescued her as they all got out of the water and she called for an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctor came around informing Nani that Lilo will be fine. Lilo wasn't covered by health insurance and her sis will have a hard time footing the bills, so the social worker came around and wanted Nani to do what's best for Lilo. She opted that the state will foot her hospital bills, but she will have to relinquish her guardianship of Lilo. Meanwhile, the aliens were distressed because they captured Stitch and hurt a human in the process. They got a call from their queen who informed the scientist that his partner, who was responsible for creating Stitch, should be arrested as more of their units were arriving to clear up the mess. But the partner was smart enough as he teleports his colleague, so he wouldn't be caught, and began heading to find Stitch. At night, Lilo sat with Nani as she tried telling Lilo that they will be separating, but will be able to call and see each other. Stitch overheard this and felt guilty. They got outside and laid together comforting each other while Stitch, still feeling guilty, returned to the animal shelter and lay there. In the morning, the social worker alongside the director arrived at her home to take Lilo away, but on getting to her room, they couldn't find her. It appears Lilo went out of the house very early looking for Stitch. Lilo got to the shelter and found Stitch looking all sad as he felt it was his fault that their family was in a mess, but Lilo comforts him by saying everyone makes mistakes. They were still at it when suddenly, the alien scientist arrived to capture Stitch. Stitch was smart enough to retrieve his device from him and used it to create a portal loop as the alien scientist kept falling endlessly as Lilo and Stitch escaped. They arrived at Nani's home and couldn't find her because she was out with her sis looking for Lilo. The alien continued falling and had to change back to his alien form to end the loop. Lilo and Stitch were still at home when they got a knock on the door as Lilo went towards it, but Stitch dragged her away to hide as it was the alien scientist. The scientist wrecks the house trying to find them as Lilo and Stitch got out, but Lilo stayed back on realizing that the alien was about destroying her parents' room. Lilo confronts him as Stitch comes around. The alien scientist exposed Stitch for using Lilo as protection and didn't really care about her. Stitch was hurt on hearing this and surrendered himself. Stitch was taken to the spaceship and taken away. Nani and the others noticed the destruction in Nani's home and rushed over there. On getting there, they spotted the second alien, who quickly changed back to his human form. So, the director revealed himself as the CIA and arrested the alien. At the spaceship, the scientist was a fugitive now and couldn't return, so he planned to transform Stitch from 626 to 627, removing any feeling of love and compassion from him, but unbeknownst to him, Lilo had also gotten into the spaceship before it took off and began sorting for ways to free her friend. Nani and her boyfriend pleaded with the CIA agent who was about leaving as they were able to convince him to stay back to help them rescue Lilo. Stitch distracted the alien while Lilo pressed a button, trying to free Stitch. The alien caught her, so she kept on pressing various buttons and was finally able to free Stitch. Stitch got out and unleashed havoc on the alien, but he was restricted by the device placed in his neck. Stitch pressed a button, and it began evicting everyone from the ship. The alien was stuck at the door and at their mercy as they sent him out flying. Meanwhile, Nani and the others were already making their way to the ship's location. The ship was about to crash as Stitch stated that they should jump, but Lilo was reluctant. Lilo's picture flew out of her hand, and as Stitch went to retrieve it, the spaceship crashed. Nani and the others got to the location of the crash as she was able to rescue Lilo, but Stitch was left behind. Nani later went back and was able to rescue Stitch. They used a defibrillator to resuscitate him, but it didn't work because his body requires more electricity, so they connected a wire to his body and a car and started it, but nothing happened. Lilo began crying, and just at that moment Stitch woke up as Lilo hugged him. At that moment, the alien queen arrived with the rest of her soldiers to capture 626, which is Stitch. Stitch was restrained and was about to be taken away when he spoke fluently for the first time, opting to say goodbye, so she let him. Lilo begged the queen to let him stay, and after deliberating on it, she realized Stitch wasn't a threat on Earth, so she decided to let him stay and left as they all rejoiced. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you love animations and movies, please subscribe to It's Mythical for more mind-blowing recaps like this. Goodbye.